Hey guys, this is Accounting Nightmare, and this is our gold Siege of Niuzao Temple run. I'm not sure how to say that, but this is one of the longer challenge modes, which is why we left it till late. But we didn't find it too tough, really. It's pretty much, if you don't make any major mistakes, you should either get the gold or be really close to it. This is our first actual successful run, and we got the gold, so that was pretty fun. We found it pretty lenient on damage. These bugs do two things which need to be interrupted, the amber weavers specifically. They do a resin shell. If you don't interrupt that, they put up a big barrier which makes them take less damage. I think it's 90% or something ridiculous. You've got to interrupt that. And they also do resin weaving. They channel that at someone, and if they finish, they'll stun that person for a long time and do damage. So just have your interrupters figure out which one they're going to take care of. These oozes are the main gimmick of this part of the instance. When one of them dies, it does an explosion which hits everyone and gives everyone a debuff. It makes you deal more damage, but take more damage from the explosion, and it stacks up. So we've got 6 stacks from that group. So the first explosion barely even hurts, but then later on it starts hurting a fair bit more. So we run through the boss room and we skip that group on the right, and we go straight to the next ooze group. There's 10 here, so we're going to get our stacks really high. This is really dangerous. Make sure everyone has a good mitigation cooldown. I almost went disc for this just for power word barrier because I had trouble surviving this. Our hunter used deterrence, our mage used greater invis, our feral druid used symbiosis on me for dispersion, our monk tank used avert harm, which helped us all of course. But even with avert harm, I used glyph of fade to reduce damage taken by 10% while fading, and I took the angelic bulwark talent. And even with all that, I would still die. So I had to GS myself. So just do whatever you have to survive that. Yeah, and then we ran straight in and murdered the boss with 16 stacks. And he just turned into a pile of goo. He just melted so fast. We popped time warp there, and we didn't have to worry about fight mechanics or anything. He just dies so quick. It's wonderful. And then another group of oozes. Make sure your debuffs is dropped off before you start killing these guys, or your stacks are going to get so high that I don't know if it's even possible to survive that with any cooldowns. If you're having trouble surviving the oozes, try to single target them a bit more. That'll space out the explosions. Allow the healer time to heal you up. Yeah, so running through this corridor here after this group of bugs is dead, try to hug the wall. If you touch any of those puddles, you get slowed and take damage. There's a bit of geometry I get stuck on, but it's no big deal really. And another group of oozes. They do hit the tank actually pretty hard. With that group of 10, it's always kind of scary because I can't GS the tank. I have to save it for myself, and I have to just hope I can heal the tank through it. Yeah, accidentally run through a puddle there. It puts you in combat for a second, but there was one time I got stuck in combat for pretty much this whole section. It was really annoying. It caused a wipe because I couldn't drink. That's just WoW being WoW. Yeah, so on to another group of bugs. The bugs also have things you can dispel. If you're too far away from them, they can charge you and they put a debuff on you, which reduces your attack and casting speed by 50%. But I discovered if you stand on them, it doesn't look like they charge you at all, so definitely do that. And that was my main priority for dispelling. You can also dispel the resin weaving thing I mentioned before, the one that can be interrupted, and dispelling it acts as an interrupt as well. So I added that to debuff tracking so I could tell which is which. That was my second priority because you've got a cooldown on your dispels, you have to be careful. Yeah, so you break down that wall. That last group of oozes, we don't kill them yet. We slow them down as much as we can, kite them around. We're going to use them for this boss. So it's on to this little event here. We made sure that someone else broke open the wall for the tank, because if the tank does it, then usually he's going to be out of line of sight of me. Sometimes I get there before him and I can stay in line of sight, but this time I was quite far behind. Yeah, so this little event, you do have to talk to the NPC to start it up. Make sure someone does that. But I like this a lot more than on Heroic. Because on Challenge mode you've got a gong you can hit, which makes the ads come way quicker. It just speeds the entire event up really nicely. Yeah, so you're still kiting the users around. Get them a bit low so that when you do want to finish them off you can. pretty quickly. And of course have people throw the bombs down onto the path. And we use the oozes to get the debuff to kill the flying dude. I forget what he's called. Amberwing, I think. But we try and keep them alive as much as possible until then. If they start dying, you do have time on the debuff before it runs out, so you can just space out their deaths a bit. Yeah, that flying dude. He does a lot of AoE damage, so it's a really good idea to use those oozes to get the debuff to just blow him up. Then you don't have to worry about him at all. And well, our tank tanks the mobs at the top here, so he's in line of sight of me because I'm clicking the gong. You definitely want your healer to click the gong. Or you can have someone else, but as long as it's someone who can move pretty quickly to get back and forth, so they can continue throwing bombs and doing DPS. You'll click the gong an overall of 4 times. It'll just become active at different times. It'll just take some practice for you to figure out when it's going to be ready to click again. Between gong clicks I help out a little bit with the bombs, but the rest of the party has that pretty well covered. They throw all the bombs as they spawn, so there's not a whole lot I can do there to help. So I mostly sit near the gong and make sure I click it as soon as it's available. Saves you a lot of time. Yeah, so your DPS does need to blow up the explosive guys as they're running down the path. That'll set off a nice chain reaction. And apart from that, it's just making sure you keep the ground there covered with the explosive bombs. Yeah, here's the explosive guys, the demolishers. Just make sure someone hits them. They've got really low health, just hit them and boom, they're all gone. I assume if they reach you, they just blow you up, so you probably don't want that to happen. And eventually you'll have the boss coming down the walkway. We did experiment with taking the boss down there, but yeah, it's really RNG as to how well that works. Depends on who he charges, really, because he has a charge, he goes after a arena person, and yeah, that's the charge. And he'd just come up the top anyway, because our DPS and healing would be up the top, so. This is the strategy we ended up going with, just keep that spot covered with explosive stuff. And the tank, when he does his charge, the tank just doesn't move, so that he runs back to the same spot. Keeps him with a nice debuff on him. His charge is really, really dangerous. There's very little warning for us, so try and stand at max range if you're not a melee. If you are a melee, then really watch that timer. Even me, I have to watch that timer. It's called 1,000 blades when it's very close to casting. Actually, no, it's not. That happened quite a bit earlier than the timer said, so when there's like 4 seconds left on it, just start running around. I find that if I'm not moving when he casts it on me, I'm either going to get hit really hard or I'm going to die straight out. Because it flicks you up in the air, and then it does even more damage to you if you're still within the range of it. While you're in mid-air. It's really lethal. Make sure everyone's really looking out for that. It's best to just lose some DPS to keep yourself moving. Now we've got a little bit of a wait time here, but we wait for all this RP stuff. And I switched talents here. I like Desperate Prayer as my talent, and I had Angelic Bulwark just for the oozes earlier on. It was a lot easier to survive that pool with Angelic Bulwark. I don't have to switch talents here, but it just makes me more comfortable. And I may switch talents as well. I'm not sure what he switched to, but it's really amusing because usually we have tons of UI errors and you have to reload the UI, but that didn't happen to me once while trying this. So I think I got super lucky. Yeah, so these bombs, they will knock you back if you're too close, and where I'm standing, that's actually too close, see? So we thought we were being tricky by standing back to avoid the explosion, but we got hit anyway, so. Yeah, you gotta skip tons of trash here. And run up that mountain. Now here, our hunter and me had trouble with that hill. We couldn't get up it, and we kept, well, there was one point where we pulled ads, because we just slid down the hill. And we were both on bug mounts. I was on the Amber Scorpion, and our hunter was on the Kuraji bug from archaeology. And everyone else was on horses and they didn't have trouble, so we all switched to horses and we didn't have any more trouble. So I don't know if that's actually a thing and that bug mounts have trouble with that spot, or if it was just plain luck or coincidence that now we stopped having trouble. That's something to keep in mind though. If someone's having trouble with that run, get them to switch mounts, see if that fixes the problem. Alright, this boss is rather interesting. His Blade Rush is very dangerous. His Tempest is rather painful, as you can see. Loads of AoE damage. I put my Divine him, but of course you're not going to have your AoE heal for every Tempest. His Blade Rush is really lethal. If you see that circle on you, you gotta run. Usually it'll one-shot you. Yeah, so all this trash that we skipped, now we're going to pull it just to save time, and yeah, use all your cooldowns here. This is going to hurt really bad. And we tank him right under the shield there. This is so we can throw bombs on the shield to hurt the boss, and it also hurts the ads, so that's pretty cool. I don't even try to touch the bombs as the healer. I'm just trying not to stop casting at all, or the tank might suddenly disappear. Other DPS though, they decided what area they were going to go to for bombs, so that you don't have several racing for the same bomb, just to keep things very nice and clean. There's the second bulwark. If there's not much going on though, you can join in with the bombs as a healer. Yeah, once all that trash is down, the fight's much less dangerous. You can definitely play around with the bombs there. And yeah, tank the ads near the shield or under the shield so they die nice and quick. Then as healer I have to sort of be careful where I'm standing. I want to lead the ads to the tank, make it easier for him to pick them up. And the bombs, of course they'll explode after a little bit if no one touches them. So if you're not going to pick up a bomb, don't stand anywhere near it. Yeah, you'll see our hunter got hit by a Blade Rush there, and he's just flat out dead. It hurts a lot. Have to be super careful. And the debuff that Tempest puts on everyone, it's a healing absorption. You just have to heal through it. Or you can dispel it, but mass dispelling it would take a lot of mana. You could try it though, I never actually tried it. This is our first time actually getting this far, so this last section isn't very tough. But these ads, don't take them too fast. I could imagine that wiping you real hard. Just be patient, because they put debuffs on people, and of course you have to dispel it. Otherwise, you're going to get stunned. What they do is they do an ability that will stun anyone who's got that debuff on them. And if you pull lots of ads, you're going to have lots of debuffs out, and you're not going to be able to dispel them all. They also just do a lot of damage. Not necessarily to the tank either. They love to hit random people. You gotta just take it nice and slow. At this point I didn't even know what the debuff did, I just knew it was a debuff, so I'm gonna dispel that and ask questions later. Which is, it's usually a good thing to do in WoW. It's very rare that dispelling a debuff will screw you over. You do have to be careful about line of sight here. All those pillars will block line of sight, just make sure that you follow your tank. Make sure you don't duck out of line of sight at the wrong time if you are the tank. And again, don't pull too quick. These builders, I think they throw bricks at people. It does a surprising amount of damage. Just taking a few at a time, it seems really easy, but adding too many would suddenly make the difficulty skyrocket because of the debuffs involved. Then you have lots of people getting stunned, and then things will just snowball out of control from there. You see, we're at the enemy counter we should be at. So all this trash is just if there was a way to skip it, we would. That would be very nice, but we can't, unfortunately, because you have to run back through this pathway to fight the boss. So not much you can do there. Mana-wise, this isn't too bad. Just don't go crazy with flash heals. You should be alright. as long as you top up before you start this little walkway. The actual boss, we make sure I break combat to drink before the boss. But I could probably have gotten away without doing that at all. It's just, it was our first time even trying this boss on challenge mode, so... So on our second attempt I would have probably said just pull right away. Yeah, so we pop time warp again because it's off cooldown, because it's a long instance. This guy he's very much just the same as heroic. If you get quick dry resin on you, jump up and down until it goes away. Don't stand in those puddles. I don't know how much damage they do, probably a lot. And at 2 points in the fight he'll switch sides. Speed boosts help a lot here. Our monk tank actually, he puts his tiger on the boss before the boss switches sides, and then he comes over here and he's already waiting there. Then you can just interrupt right away. But we were also there pretty quick too for Raw. As long as you got someone who can get there real quick to interrupt him. Otherwise you'll be doing gusting winds over and over, and that'll cost you a lot of time. You may even want, you could always have someone move over early and just stand there waiting. Yeah, for the second run, Monk uses engineer boots. Very handy. Being an engineer is just so good for challenge modes. And then he's already there to interrupt. Yeah, so I was in the caustic pitch for a second there. That's what the yellow puddles are called apparently. It actually didn't do very much damage, so probably don't even really need to worry about that. It was like one tick did very little damage, at least less than like 10% of my health. And here I'm just helping DPS because it's really not that hard of a fight. Pretty simple. You can probably help DPS in most of the fight as a healer. Not much healing to be done. The tank takes like no damage. And that's all this boss does, really. It's that siege of Niuzao Temple. It's sort of tough, but as long as you can make no massive mistakes, you should get your gold. It's really not tough on the timer. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.